Excellent.
Yeah, they give us so much.
We used to get $400.
Ours is 400 something.
That's what we used to get.
Yeah, we could always hand it to them. By the time you order, you put 5 shirts and
Every 5 years, they drive the day.
I'm gonna build mine.
So you had to buy
I mean,
the rest of it.
Sir, we talking about
Pants, shirts,
Democratic side,
coats,
Yeah, I said.
boots at $400. And then you get 100 pair of pants and a shirt.
Oh, yeah. And that's
2 shirts and a boot pair of boots.
That's it.
That's knocking
Them Clyburn in South Carolina saved this day.
Oh, yeah.
closer to the driveway.
Get a long sleeve short,
It's a
short
lot
sleeve
more
shirt.
Now mine is running, but when you're coming into the building,
No, that made a big
Got a
difference.
light coat,
mine,
heavy
I've
coat.
got.
I'll say I've got all that. I just get shirts when I wear my suit.
I tell you what,
Well,
we got the
they
best.
So
Bernie.
now I can.
If it gets too cold,
Look like they do.
Bernie's trying to.
I got a
I
bag of my cigars out of the road, but I mean,
I just had one of those look like it.
we don't have to do that.
So this needs its own part.
Yeah, that's what I
I
had
just
just
won't do it.
dog it all.
But now let me tell you, I'm still
you put a light jacket
until he
on.
runs for president.
Yeah, it's pretty kind of.
worded.
Yep.
Ties back to the party.
Me and
They
Roger.
realize the
I
danger.
ain't got
He
to
couldn't
go
hear
outside.
what somebody else
Long
was
as I could road.
But
It got pretty cold before I tell you.
on the mailbox,
I had to
Whatever it's supposed to.
I wasn't gonna say it, but
That tie, so I-
All right, let's get started,
When I
please.
went in there, pulled that jacket out, I had the tires right there.
so.
Bring this meeting of the steering committee together to go over basically our agenda for the coming meeting and any other business that we have to deal with. Have your minutes on the second page of your packet from the last meeting. Or is there any corrections or additions to those? We have a motion to approve them and a second. Motion by Mr. Ford and a second by Mr. Harsh. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. It is done. Mayor, do you have anything to bring to us tonight other than what's on our March Commission agenda so far?
No, sir.
Okay. The first thing that we have that I'm showing here is under appointments will be the fire chief. Is that anything you want to talk about tonight or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to forgive me, I coughed on the way out of the house and I stepped off the sidewalk and face planted, so I'm a little bit sore right now.
No.
For the recommendation of the fire chief, I'm going to nominate Ken Buckmaster. We went through the MTS interview process and this was the recommendation of the fire chiefs who would participate in the interview process. So that's going to be my nomination for the fire chief. If you got any questions or anything like that, I can answer those questions. I'd prefer to do it either at the county commission or you can stop by my office and speak to me then. And I'll send out, official notifications of the email for the county commission.
So is this for public consumption at this point or not?
Yeah, this is public meeting.
Okay. Well, I just want to be sure that, okay.
Well, I've already talked to all the candidates.
Well, I knew that you hadn't at one point in time when we did.
Since I've been able to do that, and so this is going to be my nomination.
Okay. Okay. Are there going to be any other appointments that you know of this time?
At this point, I think this is the only one.
It's the only thing that I knew of that was holding over. Okay, under resolutions, we have Resolution 2020-07-682, which is a resolution to support or participate in a 401k for our employees. And that is basically the overseer of it, I guess you'd say, is the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, TCRS, will be act as the chair or the chair of that organization. If you've had time to look through these, it's pretty legalistic in its in its wording, but I think it is pretty simple, pretty straightforward in what it does, what it doesn't do, how we participate in it, how we can unparticipate in it if we so choose at a later date. And this did have quite a bit of discussion in the Employee Personnel Committee back in February, and it was approved by them and sent forward to the whole commission. Is there any questions on that? I'm not sure I can answer them, but I'll certainly try to. Yes, Mr. Ford.
How does what we're doing now compare with what they're asking to be done?
What we do right now is you can opt into the program and it's taken out of your paycheck. This is a completely voluntary program. What's going on now is there's a contribution from the county. There is no contribution from the county. You can elect how much to send out your paycheck into this pool. I would say the Mid-Cumberland Human Resources and Greater Nashville Regional Council have both approved this for their employees recently, since the state's trying to get more participation into the program. But it's completely voluntary, and they can choose how much to withhold out of the check. It goes in this deferred compensation program.
So are you saying this would be a savings to the county?
No, it'll be revenue neutral or expenditure neutral to the county. It would make no difference. It's whatever you're after, or I guess it's before tax income, you can defer. Say if you wanted to put $500 in here, it would come out of what your pay was going to be and it'd go into this account. But it's pre-taxed, and so you don't pay taxes on it unless you take it out before the date in the program. But there is no, right now in TCRS, the county makes a contribution and then you make a contribution. But under this, it's all your contribution. The county doesn't make any.
Does it affect anything that's now in the state or in place?
And it shouldn't. This is a completely separate program.
Mr. Ferguson.
A 401k participation agreement is simply just a pre-tax deduction on the behalf of the employee to save money for retirement, and they put it in a certain system. Some private companies will do a match up to a certain percent, and what you're saying is that we're not really matching anything, but we're allowing them the opportunity to do a 401k pre-tax deduction for their own retirement. That's all this is.
This is completely voluntary at the election of the employee and to the amount the employee wants withheld from their check. The county is not contributing anything.
Yeah.
We're already doing that under the TCRS, the retirement system.
Any other questions?
Is it any extra work on our payroll clerk or any of that kind of stuff?
It'll be another line item to take out, but it's really not going to be that much different.
This in addition to the TCRS company?
Yes.
It's completely separate from that?
Yes, it's completely separate, but if you wanted to stack this on top of your TCRS retirement and then have that for when you retire, it's complete. Again, this is completely up to the election of the employee. You can participate or not participate, and whatever was withheld is withheld from whatever would have been your pay. And you can elect, it'll be pre-taxed, and that's why it goes into this program, and you only pay tax on it if you draw it out before, I guess, I hate to say maturity date, I know I'm not using the right term, but before the retirement age, if you pull it out, you'll pay taxes on it at that time. And the resolution, this did come from the state. This is their form, so this is what they said we had to pass.
It's like most of your plans like that. All you do is deferring it until you retire.
Right. It's just what's being
and then
deferred.
you pay tax on it then.
It's
At 70 and a half, you have to start paying taxes on it. They will automatically start taking out at 70 and a half. Done been through that. I put mine in an annuity, and it's been a very good program, because what the minimum that they take out, the annuity is gaining more money than what they're taking out every year. And I'm not that familiar with 401, except I do know it has to start taking out of it you as an individual when you reach 70 and a half years old. And what you take out of it is called minimum amount required, and of course you got to pay taxes on that. But the thinking there is, the time you retire, you're not making as much money as you were, taxable money as you were before. So it's a good plan for anybody that can afford to do it.
Any other discussion? Will of the body recommend this, move it forward for the whole body?
I would recommend we do it. I think
We have a
it's-
motion, Mr. Gregory, second by Mr. Ford, to move it forward to the whole body. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is done. Next is a very similar resolution. This is a resolution 2020-08-683, and this is a resolution supporting a 457B, which is there again, Mayor, you're going to have to explain it. It's a retirement. TCRS is going to be overseeing it. There again, it's a voluntary plan. I'm not sure that I understand what the difference is, but there is a difference. Mr. Ferguson, this went through your committee. Can you shed any light on this?
Not anything more than that. It's just a participation agreement. It's voluntary. It's just another one of the different programs that you can participate in, just like a 401k. So we haven't had the ability to do it in the past because we've got to pass through legislation to allow the employees to have that opportunity. And we're not on the hook for anything, so it's just helping them out.
Why don't we have another plan?
That was my question. I don't understand the differences. There is a tax difference in it, but I don't know enough to know why. But they suggested to us to do both, and that committee decided for us to participate in both, or recommended we participate in both.
Differences in them particularly, but when they presented both of them, they both sounded like they were positive for the employees and didn't cost us anything. So.
Mr. Nolan?
We had this at the airport. The 401 was what you wanted took out of your check. And the 457 was whatever the airport was matching. They didn't want to put them both in the same thing together, so they had two separate. And I had a 401 and I had a 457, so that's what it is. But if we don't match anything, I don't get so you don't have anything. But that's what it was. Ours was our the airport's matching money that they put in every check. That's the way I understood it.
David, are you saying that whatever the employee put in, that in this case, the county would have to match?
No, don't have to. The airport did. Now, they would match up to $136.58, which would come out to about $4,000 a year. So the 401 is was your whatever you took out. If you wanted to do 10%, 8% or 10%, take it out of your check, you could do that. But that $136.58 went into 457, and it was separated. They wouldn't put them both together. They could separate them.
So the airport put in the $100 and however many dollars it was,
Yeah.
and the employee didn't have to put in anything.
No, but yeah, the employee put in whatever. You could put in the same amount of money.
Yeah.
The 6%, which I think that's what it come out to. The employee put in 6%, airport put in 6%. But if you wanted to put in 8%, 7%, 8%, 10%, you could, but they only would put up to that $136.58.
I guess what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, why do we need both of them?
Mr. Gillum?
I don't know.
I could just quickly read what it says online. They're both operated the same. They're handled a little bit differently. 457s are offered typically by state and local governments and some nonprofits. The two plans are similar, but the 457 plans are not governed by ERISA. Some aspects such as catch-up contributions, early withdrawals, and hardship distributions are handled differently. It seems like a zebra with a slightly different stripe.
Yeah, in either one of these cases, the county's not obligated to match any contribution. So this problem, from what I remember talking about that a little bit, and they didn't talk about, I think they talked about the 401k more than anything else. It's just a matter of how they might be able to move some of the monies around because you're a state employee, I guess. From what you just read there, it makes sense.
Says by comparison, 457 plans are IRS sanctioned, tax advantaged employee retirement plans offered by state and local public employers and some nonprofits. not exactly sure why they're wanting you to offer a 401 and a 457. It seems like, according to this, just very briefly, a 457 is more applicable.
Yeah.
I know it has to do also if you transfer your employment, being able to transfer it to another employer and things like that. But I'm not a tax attorney. I don't know. I really don't know why one would be better than the other or why you would want to participate in one or the other. All we're doing is setting up a vehicle for the people that want to participate in it being able to. That's my understanding of what we're trying to do here. If it's more to it than that, it went by me.
They actually give them 2 plans,
Right.
and that's my question.
Well, it'll be giving them 3. The current one that we have now, that we participate in to a certain degree, these 2 would strictly be voluntary,
That's right.
depending on, I guess, depending on their salary or how much they want to put into it, when they're planning on retiring, whether they want to use it for life emergencies and be able to draw out of it. All those type things play into it. At least that's my understanding on it. But
Oh, they do.
beyond that, I really don't know.
It's a savings account.
We can ask Mr. Armistead, who came and did the presentation at the Personnel Committee, to come back for either the work session or a county commission meeting. And he should be able to answer any questions.
There's got to be some reason why they're offering both of them, getting offered off of them. I'm not familiar with this and saying anything about it.
Any feedback from the county employees, or they want it, or I mean, somebody talk to them?
Mr. Ferguson,
I don't recall that being that in-depth on it, to be honest with you. I mean, right there at the very last of the meeting.
where did this even come up? When did they came and wanted to do it for us?
Yeah, they
The
actually
state
reached
asked
out.
if they could come and do a presentation to the Personnel Committee about the program, so I contacted Mr. Ferguson, and he put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
It was at their request.
And after they got through explaining it, everybody thought it was a good thing.
thing. From the county standpoint, it was not going to obligate us to anything. It was retirement for people. It was voluntary to begin with. Nothing was mandated on anybody. And so this 457 versus, I know what a 401k plan is. I have one myself. The 457B, I've not ever been a state employee for many years. I was in Georgia, but then back then it didn't. I don't know. But the 457B to me would seem to indicate that that is a special circumstance for a state employee, or government employee, something like that. I'm sure that we get a better explanation on it. I like to recommend we move it forward, and if all of a sudden we find something that says, well, wait a minute, we won't change that, we can get a clarification from the gentleman from the state. But in the committee, we were like, yeah, that sounds really good. You know, we're not on the hook for anything. It's just helping the employees out.
Let's see if we can't reach out to them and get them here for work session, if possible, or at least a better explanation from them.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
I'll go back a motion to approve it.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody that works for us would figure out
Probably.
how to use it, make money off both of them.
I second that motion.
Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Noller and second Mr. Ferguson. Any other discussion? This is to move this forward to our regular agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
See if we can get a little bit better. I apologize for not being able to explain it better. It just went through the committee, and I thought that was, somebody would be here to explain it. Next, we're going to have a resolution on our county road listing. We do this once a year where we have to provide any roads that have been added to our road list or deleted from our road name list. We have not received that road list yet, but we're supposed to be getting that from the highway department prior to the work session. They said that this was the month that we typically do it in, is why we put it in the agenda package for this month. But we'll have those road names before work session.
I can't remember us not passing it.
We have actually deleted a few roads in times past, and typically we add 2 or 3 or 4, I'd say just about every year.
I think the last one we added were on 141, wasn't it?
Most of them down that way. when they redid the road, we had to rename several roads because of the new route of the road and making part of the old roadway named section. So it got pretty involved that year. But I don't think this will be terribly involved, but we'll have that for work session. Next is Resolution 2020-10-685. This is resolution designating, declaring Hartsville, Trousdale County, Second Amendment of Sanctuary County. This did go before the Law Enforcement Committee on February the 27th. They did recommend it to the full body. That's why it's on your agenda for this month. Any discussion, any further discussion on this? What's the will of the body?
Make a motion.
Have a motion to send it forward.
Second.
And have a second. Mr. Clarendon.
Golly.
Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is done. Ordinances, we have public hearing and a second reading on a rezoning. This is ordinance 190-2020-05. This is rezoning a lot from C2 to R1. This is located up on Hilltop Drive. This will be our second reading on it. You have it in your other packets from last month, and we'll have it in your packet for this month's agenda.
Public hearing.
It'll be a public hearing and a second reading on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then first reading, there is probably, I say probably because it's on the agenda for the Planning Commission next Monday night, I believe, 2 more rezonings that we'll have for first reading. And one of those is a lot beside this other one that Mr. Henry Case owns up there off of Fieldtop that is showing C2 that he wants to take to R1. The other one, let's see, I'm sorry.
I have to know the next one.
Tired. The other one was Bill Ferguson has purchased a piece of property that evidently at some point in time in the past had been recommended by the Planning Commission to rezone from A1 to R1, and it never got done. And what you have now is a non-conforming lot because of the lot size is too small. This would be to correct that so that the zoning is correct on it, the correct lot size, taking it to R1. No, what this is up on Skillet, up on Hawkins.
The Hilltop is.
The other one was, yes, it was Hilltop.
Is all them lots down on Hilltop
Yes.
on that side, they're all commercial or something?
Yes, what it's showing on the map.
Come in and get a rezone.
And the original, it's a little confusion there because the original map plat for the subdivision for Hilltop Acres or whatever it was showed them all residential. Somehow when they did along the front of the commercial highway, they went back to Hilltop Drive, which made those residential lots commercial. So it's one of those things that, depending on which one you look at, as to which way it is, and this is to absolutely make sure that from this point on, they're residential, because they're being used as residential, they're being taxed as residential. So, that's why, just trying to correct something that's probably an error somehow in the mapping.
Do you need a motion on it, or we gotta wait till let it go through planning?
We probably will wait till it goes through planning, but if you want to go ahead and say, put it on the agenda, I think it would be prudent to go ahead and do it. I hate for these people to have to wait a whole month.
I think you should, I make a motion, we're gonna make sure.
Have a motion by Mr. Ford, and a second by Mr. Harsh to put both of these on our agenda if they come forward from Planning Commission. They will come forward from planning either with a positive recommendation or a negative recommendation. Either way, we need to act on it. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Motion does carry. It's really, I hate, we may need to look at moving our steering committee meetings a little later into the month, because we're coming in so early in the month that a lot of these things really haven't had time to be developed to get to us. You know, particularly the agenda items. Typically, I think most of the things that we're going to be dealing with is ideas that are coming forward, and people, like much like last month, where the help center, we need help, we don't know what to do. Who do they need to go to, or where do these pieces of legislation need to go to? Most all of these on this agenda are coming forward either from committee already or coming from the Planning Commission to go forward to the body. So they need to be on the agenda anyway. It's not just some new idea that somebody's had or formulated. At least that's my thinking on it.
What night do they meet in the month? The first, second, or what?
They typically meet the second Monday night of the month.
We're meeting the first Tuesday night, we'll go the second Tuesday night.
That may be what we need to do, is what I'm saying. We'll look at it, but if it continues to be much of an issue, that may be what we need to do.
First Monday in December.
Also, we have one budget amendment that's going to be on this, and it's a pretty lengthy budget amendment. It's the back of your packet there. It's there again from schools. It's an amendment to the 141 General Purpose School Fund, and it has to do with incentive bonuses and moving it from the fixed category into the respective categories that they need to be paid out of or spent out of. So there again, it is simply moving their money, debiting one fund and putting it into another line item. There's no new money involved in this. This will, Board of Education sent this forward, and it will be before the Budget and Finance Committee before we meet. And that's the only other items that I know of at this point in time that are likely to be on our agenda. Don't have anything else. The only other things I'd like to make you aware of, myself and the mayor and Commissioner Jones went down to Nashville yesterday to the Tennessee County Services Administration legislative session. We were in a lot of different committee meetings. I attended the Veterans Affairs Committee, the Education Committee, and the Governmental Affairs Committee, which I sat on all three of those committees. Also, the Tennessee County Commissioners Association General Meeting, Membership Meeting, and Board Meeting, I sit on that board. Went over a lot of legislation. There's a lot of veterans bills, as usual. Very few of them have any financial impact to the county. The ones that do are very minimal. The education bills, there were a lot of education bills. Most of them we voted to support because they will be more of a benefit to the county and our finances than a detriment. They would benefit us. That's why we're supporting. There was a couple that we were opposing, strongly opposing. This association typically opposes anything that in any way removes funds from public education and tries to divert it to private school sources, such as vouchers or LEAs or LESs or LESDs or all those things that they got. They got acronyms for everything. You can't be in education without using an acronyms. Mr. Gully said, yep. But I think most of the legislation, a lot of it will get passed, at least in the House this week, or should, are the key bills that they're looking at. I typically try to watch as much as I can during the day on television. If you ever get the opportunity, it's on Channel 8 too. You can sit there and watch a lot of the committee meetings, and you can see a lot of these things moving through committee if you have the opportunity to do that. But I don't think, and from my perspective, there was no just great revelations and no just huge aha moments that are going to affect us one way or the other. Mayor, would you like to comment? You were in some of the other meetings that I was. The ones you were in, what was your feelings on it?
Well, probably as far as the bills introduced right now, probably the one I had the most was the Association of County Mayors meeting. It was basically just status updates on where they are, and some of the bills that I guess had been opposed by TCSA, was the status on those. Most of them are probably not going to get out of committee, and there were some other ones that there's some behind the door horse trading going on, trying to get them through and deal with the issues that have been brought up. Same thing. I mean, really, you just look at the bills of what they are, can see what they are. There was no great surprises coming up. It's basically, here's where this bill is, and so there, like you said, there was no great revelations. The other committee that I'm on and I attended was the Criminal Justice Committee, and it was really just kind of talking about, there was a data given out on county jails that have been built within the last so many years, and the population I guess the population overcrowded beforehand, how many spaces the new jail had and how many of those have already been taken up. And the trend they're seeing is as soon as they build a jail, it gets filled right back up again. And I can tell you the reason why is because as soon as you build a new jail, all those probation violations they've been hanging on to, they start serving. So you fill it right back up again. So there was some discussion on that, and discussion on programs for whether it be work release programs, reentry programs, and how the state is really paying catch up to some of the other states across the country. And there was some discussion about how other counties have implemented those and the impact it's had on the recidivism. I think there was one county that, for the participants in the program, they went from a 60% recidivism rate down to a 6% recidivism rate. So they are seeing great returns on that program, and it's just a lot of discussion on that. And it's really in early stages, just like we are at the jail. We'll have a lot of these discussions here on the local level, and I think Mr. Bass even talked about that. So we'll have a lot of those discussions here, and that committee's kind of having the same discussions out there. It's really trying to get what data's out there, trying to get that all together, then use that to see not only what direction to go at the counties, but also use that to try to tell the legislators which direction needs to go, whether it's criminal justice reform, bail reform, all these other things. And you already see some bills in the legislature right now, like if you have I think they call it a evidence-based program to try to reduce recidivism, you can get $5 more. If you, one bill is $5 more just if you house a state inmate, the other is $5 more if you have a contract with TDOC to house inmates. So just things like that. That's really what the update was at that committee. There was no motion to take any kind of action. It was basically just updates and seeing what's going on at the state level.
There were 2,743 bills filed this year. 2,743. There was 3,000 something carried over from last year that were in summer committee or summer study that were brought forward too. So keeping up with all of these is pretty much a monumental task. And Charlie Curtis is our director, and he does the yeoman's task on it. And I know that this really maybe doesn't have as much to do with steering committee as everything else, but while it was fresh on our minds, I thought we needed to try to address it since we're running a little easier. One of the pieces of legislature that we strongly opposed, that I have concerns about, and you, I'm sure, have your own feelings one way or the other about it, was on controlled substances, and it reduced from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class C misdemeanor the offense of knowing possession, casual exchange, and distribution of small amounts of marijuana. And it establishes an early release eligibility for nonviolent offenders convicted of Class A misdemeanor offenses. And that one, for various reasons, and some of the reasons that we were brought up to oppose it, I'd really never thought about. One is your litigation tax. You're getting $70 per person that is charged with a Class A misdemeanor that's coming back to us that we wouldn't get. So does it have a financial impact to us? Yes, it does have a financial impact to the county, which I'd never considered that, but that was one part of it. The other thing, there's several bills like that with a little bit different terminology or phraseology to them. There's several that have to do with basically legalizing marijuana. Also, one that we voted to strongly oppose that affected local government quite a bit, or could, is in education purchasing. It increases from $10,000 to $25,000 or more, the amount for which a local board of education can purchase without a competitive bid. So right now we're at $10,000 if we're going to bid anything in the school systems, and even county government. Typically that's what we've always went by. This would raise it. It says $25,000 or more. How much is the or more? $100,000. But the biggest thing about it also was that it also had language in the fine print that it would adjust it automatically 2% every year. So if you set it at $25,000, it would automatically next year go up, and the next year go up, and the next year go up, and the next year go up. Which I'm not opposed to that. Probably that's what should be done anyway to keep up with inflation. We've had those conversations before as well. It's just that I don't know. I think we need to bid. I think for full transparency and making sure that local people have an opportunity to bid on projects, or that you don't get into the good old boys, brother-in-laws, sisters, Aunt Susie getting all the contracts. It needs to be bid, so we strongly oppose that one. It was supported, of course, by the School Board Association. Some of the others we've talked about a little bit in times past about open meetings, trying to strengthen some of the terminology, or making definitions for some of the terminology in the Open Meetings Act. Also some transparency to deal with websites and posting of agendas and minutes and things of that nature. So there's a lot of bills that pertain to that are in the works, but that's just some of the main ones that that I think will affect us as a local government that we went over in that meeting. Yes, Mr. Ford.
What about the governor's idea on people not having to have permits to carry guns as long as they didn't have felons, etc.? What chance has that got?
I think it'll pass. I haven't seen the wording on it. I don't think anybody's seen the wording of the final bill, and that's the only concern that most people have is what does it actually do? What does it actually say?
That's about all I've heard.
Yeah, what it is basically constitutional carry state in that you will not have to have a permit to be able to carry a weapon. Does not affect any of the laws concerning buying a weapon. You're still going to have to, register it and have background checks and things of that nature. But if your wife wants to leave tomorrow and carry a pistol in her pocketbook, it's not illegal.
But that still would hold back your felons and people that not illegal now.
People are felons. And the trade-off on doing that was it's supposed to, like I say, nobody's seen the exact wording of what this is saying. If they have, they haven't shared it. Is they're supposedly strengthening are making much more stricter the laws concerning if someone steals a weapon,
Yeah.
or they commit a felony with a stolen weapon, or they commit a felony crime with a weapon. They're strengthening those laws and laxing the carry laws, basically. There's, I think, 4 or 5 states that have enacted this legislation. It was before them last year. Governor Haslam didn't support it. Evidently, Governor Lee is. That's my understanding. If anybody has any more insight on it, speak up.
I'm thinking if you give all these women guns, half the population of men will be gone. What about Ms. Jones?
That got my code for me.
I did get some interesting information in the Education Committee that I will share with Education Committee next hour, that we'll go over in great detail with that. Some of these education-specific bills and what they're likely to do and how they're likely to affect us.
How much was said about legalizing marijuana? Because I know they're willing to do it.
Do what now?
What much was said about legalizing?
Quite a bit. That's what I went over. They're
Another
wanting to drop it from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class C. They're looking at I think the one bill specifically targeted the amounts. There's some bills to take it completely out of drug screening. Problem we're having with the drug screening evidently is people using the CDBG oil is given a positive on it, so they can't differentiate the two. So it's maybe causing people to fail a drug test that necessarily are not using marijuana, or at least that was the argument. So there's quite a few bills. Most of them are really bogged down in committee. They're getting a lot of back and forth in committee and football between different committees. How many of them will actually pass through this time, I don't know. It's an election year, and I assure you those people down there are wanting to get out of there and not really deal with a whole lot that's somewhat controversial.
What about changing of the length of time on some of these prisoners that's in there on different things? Been a lot of talk about that too.
There has been. That's part of this criminal justice reform,
Right.
and that's what they're looking at is trying to some of the what do they call them, non-violent
Non-violent
offenders.
offenders.
Right, that trying to reduce those, and we have more people in jail in the state of Tennessee, I think they said, than any state in the country. Proportion to population.
Percentage-wise, yes.
And obviously something's out of whack and something has to be addressed. And there's greater minds than I that are dealing with that. And I just don't know where it's going to go. You sat in on criminal justice, I did, Mayor. Do you want to?
Well, there was discussion about how many or what percentage of your inmates are actually mental health issues, and that the jail is not the best place for them. The sheriff's department's having to deal with people with mental health issues, and they're just not equipped to do that. And there was a recognizing of what the problem is. The solution is kind of up in the air, trying to see what other states are doing. But recognizing, number one, you got a lot of people that have mental health issues, and that's driving a lot of these non-violent drug offenders are clogging up your jails. And then the discussion becomes, is it better to have a non-violent drug offender in jail or somebody who's actually committed a violent crime against somebody and use that space for them? So there's just a lot of those discussions. And right now, like I said, it's really looking at the data and where does the data lead us? And the data right now is telling us we can't keep building jails. It's just not going to be productive. And one of the discussion came back, well, why can't, if the county jails are so clogged up because they're taking TDOC inmates because TDOC is so backed up, why don't the state build more prisons? Well, you build about $200 or $300 million prisons, and I mean, how many more percentage of the population you want to lock up? 10%, 15%? And it becomes a place that a section, or you get to a place where you figure out what we're doing is not working, but what do we do to try to address some of these issues? And that's kind of where it is. It's getting, right now, it's looking at the data, recognizing where the problem is, and then trying to see what the solutions are that everybody can agree on. That's kind of where it's at right now.
I think they've identified the problems and they're working on solutions.
One thing that I've been seeing a lot on is juveniles. They say the juvenile system is broken. It's pitiful.
Well, the biggest increase in the jail population in the last decade has been women. And they're also seeing more juveniles. I think that there again.
But there's nothing there for them once they put them in there.
It makes it hard. Yeah, because I'm serious. It's going to take greater minds than mine to figure this out. It's serious. Yes, sir.
Did you get the sense, kind of off topic, back to what you were talking about earlier, did you get the sense that the governor's proposed carry law amendment or change has anything to do with the gun sanctuary resolution? Do you think those are connected somehow?
Possibly. Never was stated, I don't think.
Seemed timely that all that was on the forefront.
Yeah. I think that may have had to do with it, but it's two separate issues. It's not really the same issue. So I couldn't address that. I'd like to sit down and talk to Governor Lee and just ask him, but I didn't have that opportunity. But he's got his hands full of tornadoes right now, I think.
I tell you what I think is the biggest problem. 50 years ago, we had 138 million people in the United States. Today, we've got 338 million. That's the biggest problem, is population. And nowhere to put them.
Everything has a problem.
Yeah,
There's a lot of wide open spaces between here and the Pacific Ocean. I've driven through them, I know that. We can stack a whole lot more people in here than we have. I don't know we can feed them, but we can stack them in here. Anybody have anything else? Mayor, any further? Have a motion to adjourn?
Are we having a tax sale?
So moved.
What is the tax sale?
Yeah.
March 11th.
How many properties is selling?
Can't remember exactly. I think it's 5 or 6.
Just 5%.
I don't remember exactly.
Is there a list that can be given?
Shelley.
It's printed in the Vidette.
No, Richard.
I have anything like 10 or how many, like 10.
I thought my Shelley thought was smart. I heard it.
Buy you some real property.
You never know.
Was that in the Vidette this week, Mr.?
I know it was 2 weeks ago. I got to look to see if it was in last.
You don't support your local paper?
Sign him up.
You got it, just $36 a year. I told him, there's 40 local paper.
Education.